Hei sann, og velkommen til dette webinaret om SkyKick. Mitt navn Jande Khan, og jeg sitter som ISV-koordinator i Also Cloud Marketplace. SkyKick jo da en tilleggstjeneste for Office 365, som gir deg da backup av data som lagres i Microsoft sin sky. Og det veldig viktig å ha gode backup-rutiner for dataen, fordi opp til 70% av all datatap skyldes av at brukeren har slettet filene selv. Og hos Microsoft så lagres det da i en søppelboks i en begrenset periode, før den da slettes for godt. Og det tar utrolig lang tid å gjenopprette søppelboksene når de først har blitt sluttet. Derfor SkyKick en veldig enkel og fin løsning, slik at du alltid har dataen lagret. I dag så har jeg med meg Jeanette fra SkyKick. So Jeanette, I think you can just start.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you've had a lovely weekend also in Norway, as I've seen that in Scandinavia it has been very sunny lately. Before we get into the content of the webinar, I will tell you a little bit myself and also about SkyKick. And if you have any questions, you can always send those to me at janet.dial@skykick.com, or you can send them also to the Also team, or contact our support if it's a technical question. And also please ask questions during the webinar or end of the webinar. So let's go through what is in your mind regarding on SkyKick or the cloud backup. But feel free to interrupt me or ask the questions in the end of the webinar. So I will tell you a little bit myself. I'm actually from Finland originally, so I have been living in Finland most of my life. I used to work at Microsoft Finland. I used to be part of the Office business group, and also the past 3-4 years I've been traveling around as after my husband's career, and I used to live in Paris and Luxembourg, and I've been placed now in Amsterdam for the past 6 months. And I joined SkyKick 4 months ago, but as I know the Office business really well from a product perspective, it would felt very natural to come to the other side of the table to work with the partner group who are selling Office 365, but also help our partners around EMEA how to actually attach different kind of services and businesses next to the Office 365 business to increase their partner revenue. So I'm helping our partners across EMEA. My focus is naturally Nordics, as I coming from Finland, and also as I understand the environment very well. But in addition, I also take care of Middle East. And it's very interesting for me to kind of being in a very cloud penetrated market, but also in up and coming market. So it's kind of balancing between the two. And so let's get started. SkyKick was founded 7 years ago in Seattle. Most of our, but many of our employees actually come from Microsoft, and so does our founders. And 7 years ago, our founders discovered that there's so much opportunity driving the business to the cloud, but there's not really a very scalable and efficient way to take customers to the cloud. And they really saw an opportunity to building a migration tool that would enable the customers to go faster in the cloud, and also the partners make much more revenue when the migration process would be very automated and not so much manual work. So SkyKick was founded because of this reason, and we first started as a migration company. A couple of years ago, our founders also realized that there is not a cloud backup for Office 365. And as there are so many cybersecurity issues, now we are going ahead of GDPR deadline. There's really a need for backup for Office 365. So we introduced Office 365 Cloud Backup to our partners 2 years ago, and it's really, really well taken in the market, and especially in the Nordics, as Norway, in addition to the other countries, is very well cloud penetrated market. We are 100% partner organization. We don't discuss directly with our end customers, and we really want to help our partners to be successful in the cloud, and that is my job, to help you within your cases to be able to take your customers to the cloud, and also help you to back up your customers in your existing Office 365 base, and also helping you to discover a new way of making different kind of service bundles when you actually are migrating to Office 365. So the reason why I actually come to work is to help you guys to be more successful in the cloud. We have over 5,000 partners, and we are in over 100 countries. So we are growing a lot, and actually 2 weeks ago was a really, really exciting week for us, as we got the 40 million more funding. And this was our big celebration, as this enables us to actually continue our cloud journey. We are really quite a young company still, and this kind of trust from our founders is a really good news for us, and we are so super excited to actually build new products to our platform and take SkyKick to the next level. And if we go for the next slide, most of you probably already know about cloud backup. But many of your customers might ask, like, why do I need backup to Office 365? I'm already in the cloud. What I remember from my office days and working at Microsoft, I remember the kind of like picture in customers and people's head that when you're in a cloud, that's kind of your backup. It's kind of like when you save one document on your desktop and then you put it in OneDrive, it's kind of like a backup. But most of us needs to educate, and probably many of your customers needs education, and that also if there's a hacker attack, or if somebody wants to delete data on purpose or accidentally, they can do it also from a cloud. Even if it's in OneDrive, it can be deleted, or hacker can attack also in OneDrive. It doesn't necessarily have to always be on desktop or email. It can be also cloud versions of that. And the reason why we are really working together very closely with Microsoft is, as Microsoft doesn't have a backup solution in place. If you delete your data, it can get back within 14 or maximum 30 days from Microsoft. And this is also something our founders realized, that if a person loses data accidentally, for example, if they have a really important meeting, they need to get it back within a second, not within hours. And that's why we have really enforced our automated processes to actually you to be able to restore the data back in a few seconds. And that's really, really valuable if a person is going for a meeting or there's a hacker attack. You need to travel back in time before the hacker attack happens, or if an employee leaves the company and deletes every data they have had in the email, for example, but you need to restore that because there's sometimes really valuable information in the email or in OneDrive. And this is probably something to highlight, that when we think about losing data, the first thing that comes to mind is that the data was the hacker, there's a hacker attack or some kind of ransomware, but actually when we lose data, it's normally by accident. So we accidentally delete data, or someone leaves the company and deletes it on purpose. So there's different kind of scenarios where cloud backup is really needed. This table here actually explains that how we see ourselves. Sometimes people think that we are maybe competing with Microsoft, but we are actually not. Our solution is made for backup, and Office 365 is made for creation and communication. So we are actually walking hand in hand, and we are better together when we are attached together. You need a backup to Office 365, and as you see from the table, Office 365 is not designed for restoring the data, and our backup solution is not designed for creation or communication. It's definitely only created for backing it up, the data that you have created in Office 365. So we are better together, and we are completing the Office 365 service within your customers. So what do we actually back up, and how do we back up? We back Office 365, meaning Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and as we are very aligned with Microsoft strategy, we also have now groups and teams in a beta program. And as Norway is very, very advanced in Office 365 and cloud penetration in overall, you probably already see a lot of your customers moving to groups and teams, and if not yet, very soon, as Microsoft is really moving the workloads towards groups and teams and wanting to create an environment, unified environment for collaboration and working together. We have unlimited retention, so no matter how long you actually need your data to be backed up. One thing that I already mentioned, that our restore system is really, really nice. You don't have to call anyone to make a ticket and wait hours and hours. Our one-click and restore really enables you to, with the one click, to restore the data that your customer has lost. And I will demonstrate this in our demo section. We have also unlimited storage, so you don't have to have discussions with the customer like how much data they can put in the storage. Even if there's a 1 terabyte or one file, it doesn't matter there's no limit how much or how little they can have data to be placed in the storage. We have also simply monthly fee. So as we have unlimited storage, we don't charge for the storage. We charge for the license. So our licensing goes that per Exchange and then OneDrive and SharePoint, and it doesn't necessarily need to go like how much data who wants to be storing in the backup solution. Our backup solution can be applied to any Office 365 tenant, and it's really, really easy to set up. There's nothing to install, and the tool does all the auto discovery of the mailboxes, SharePoint, OneDrive, and OneDrive for business accounts. We have 3 different Azure options, and we highlighting here that we only back up in Azure. We really want to follow the Microsoft GDPR story, and we are really aligned with Microsoft strategy, so that's why we only back up into Azure. We have 3 Azure options, meaning SkyKick Azure, if you have like an SMB type of a customer, as you probably have, they don't necessarily have their own Azure account. So if they want to use our SkyKick Azure, they don't have to pay anything for the storage. But if they, of course, if they have their own Azure storage, they need to pay for that. But if they use the SkyKick Azure, they don't have to pay anything on top of the licenses, as the storage is for free if they use the SkyKick Azure. And as I want to highlight here the GDPR story, when your customers store their data in Azure, it never leaves as the Microsoft environment. And this is also very, very good for you to have the conversation with the customers, that it actually, if they have once agreed all the security policies and so forth with Microsoft, the kind of the story and the same situation stays, as we don't back up in between somewhere our own data center. Our tools are in Azure, we work in Azure, so it stays in the Microsoft environment. And also at this point, many of you probably think like, okay, where is the data center placed? So your customers can decide themselves where they want to have the data placed. We have different data centers, and normally the European customers want to store the data in Europe. So we have one in Holland and one in Ireland, like the Microsoft, like either here in Amsterdam or in Dublin in Ireland. So, and of course, if they want to store the data in US or Asia, they can, of course, naturally do that. But normally the European or Middle Eastern customers want to store the data in Europe. Some few points about the value, what is SkyKick backup for your customers and what is actually for you. One thing I mentioned already is the peace of mind. So when your customer realizes that they will get the data back within a second, so it actually enriches your relationship with the customer. As they have used that, sometimes it can be really hard to get some of the data back from different kind of services. With SkyKick, we have really wanted to focus on the customer experience and the fastness of getting the data back, so people don't have to feel nervous if they're just going in the really important meeting or somewhere they need the data back. So we have really wanted that this restoring process is really simple and easy. As Microsoft Office 365 is really all about productivity, we want to kind of follow that story with our backup, meaning that we want that people can use their time productively, doing the things what they were supposed to do and not focusing on getting their data back. And one of the things really is probably the unlimited backup, as most of your customers has a lot of data. So when they know that they can store as much as they can, it's kind of like frees you to have the conversation, how much data who can place in the storage and how much actually it's going to cost. And what is SkyKick Cloud Backup for you guys? Absolutely, the recurring revenue is probably the first thing. As you all know, migration is a one-off project, so you need to kind of build up your services to actually keep that revenue coming. So if you think about all of your Office 365 customer base, attaching backup either your existing Office 365 customer base or up and coming new customers, so how to actually attach the backup with your new clients. And most of our what I see the partners doing now is they're actually bundling it together with the migration, the license, and then backup together. Or if there's some kind of cybersecurity bundles or different kind of service bundles, I see this also happening a lot. So bundling it together as a service is probably the easiest way to kind of, and also educating the customer about why actually they need backup. And this is very important to really like make them also understand that it necessarily always not mean that they're losing the data because of the hacker attack. It actually can be just like employees leaving unhappily and deleting everything from the database. And if you're doing a lot of migrations also, we have single pane of glass, so you can see all of your projects from one place. And as you probably, many of you are also using Azure, so we only back up into Azure as we really want to be aligned with Microsoft strategy. So if we now go to the demo, I will share my screen again. I hope you guys see it. Just wait for a second. Okay. Now you see our actually tool in a demo environment, but this is actually how it mostly look in the real environment as well. Here we see the logo up in the left up corner, and this is called Acme Tech, but this could be any of your own logos because our technology is also white labeled. So it could be Telenor or whatever logo you want to place there, as we want that. So then our purpose is that you can use our technology as your own and sell it as your own technology. Here we can see that we do have also the migrations in the tool in the left side, and then we have a cloud backup, and then we have an amazing place called Help Center. Here's a lot of information how to get started with the migration or backup projects. I really recommend looking for information from here. This is like this, when I joined SkyKick, this was like my Bible. I found there's so much good information in here. But when we are starting the cloud backup, we would go in the backup page, which I have opened here. And here we can actually see all of the customers who are already on the cloud backup. And here we can see how much data on Exchange we have and how much actually we have in SharePoint and OneDrive. Then we have the pending orders, meaning here that these my customers need to still be migrated to Office 365, and they are pending the cloud backup to start before the actually can be backed up. And here I have my subscription. So here are my companies that actually are already in Office 365 Cloud Backup. So I could watch like, okay, let's see how is like a Göteborg Systems. Okay, they have Exchange backup and it has been backed up the last time at that point. And how about Betty's Burgers? They have also Exchange, and this was already at the same time. Or Grand Hotel, they have Exchange, or also Switzerland, they have Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive. So in this page, you can see all of your customers that are already in the backup and easily check what is actually going on with each of them. But then we actually, when we want to add a subscription to here, we need to go few steps, and then we would put a subscription. And then we would come into this kind of page, which actually there's a couple of steps you need to actually decide with each of your customers. Here, actually, the page recommends you to try the IUR, and as you are a partner, you can test our cloud backup in your real environment and back up your Office 365 for free. So I definitely recommend you to try the IUR program, what we are having. Then each of your customers wants to probably have different kind of backup. They only want to have Exchange to be backed up, or Exchange and SharePoint and OneDrive. And the only thing you need is actually the company name, company A. Then you need the Office 365 administrator username. So this would be placed here, and Office 365 administrator password. And then you would actually validate. And then you need to decide which Azure account your customer is going to use. If you use the SkyKick Azure, you would put, like this is a demo environment, but normally in the real environment, there's a lot of different options to actually which storage account you're going to, or which storage you're going to use. Or if your customer has their own Azure storage account, you would put the account name here, the access key in this place. And then you would actually go to customize setup, and I have made a couple of these steps here. So after placing the Office 365 administrator username and deciding which Azure storage they are gonna use, you would end up this kind of page, and you would see like here are all the steps we need to make from Exchange, SharePoint, and OneDrive, Office 365 groups. And first thing we need to discuss with the customer is that do they want to have the auto enable on, meaning that every time there comes a new employee in the company, is it automatically backed up? I would definitely recommend you to do that, as so many things we want to actually automate at SkyKick. And one of these things, if we don't put it auto enable on and the email comes to you and says like, hey, there's a new person in organization, should we put him or her in the backup? It's normal that people forget things, and then if something happens, unfortunately, the one person could not be in a backup solution. So if it's okay with the customer, I would definitely always recommend put the auto enable on. And then we need to decide what is actually the retention policy within your backup. You can keep it indefinite, or the customer can choose if they want to delete it after like 5 years, or 10 years, depending on, of course, the customer data, because some of the customers probably need to keep the data over 10 years, as there's like a data related to children, for example, so they really need to keep the data a long time. But it's up to you and the customer how the customer actually wants to choose how long they want to keep their data, and also if they want to have the auto enable on. And here we can see all the individual mailboxes, what the tool has actually discovered. And we can see here that actually Buck has just left the company, so we can put the backup off. And also Elsa is in a maternity leave, so we can put the backup offline for now, because Elsa is not going to use her Exchange or OneDrive account. But now Elsa is back, soon back, so we really need to keep an eye on that when Elsa is back and using, so we can put it on. And then we're going to see like, well, this public folder necessarily don't need to have backed up, or either the shared mailboxes doesn't need to be backed up either. And then we go for a next step. And now the tool is configuring the decisions. And then we come in the SharePoint and OneDrive, and we need to go the same steps again. So yes, we want to have the auto enable on, and we want to keep the data indefinite. And here we can see the site collections, and we are thinking like, actually, we don't actually need this one, so we actually can switch it off. Or the Buck has left the company, so we don't need necessarily have the, we don't definitely not need to have his OneDrive business account on. So we go for a next step. And then we are Office 365 groups. And as mentioned earlier, I'm now at the demo version. I don't have any Office 365 groups here, but in a really, really short time, you're going to see a lot of your customers having Office 365 groups and using them. So you probably need to select these as well. So I would put the auto enable on, and also maybe we would delete after here like 10 years. And then we go for a next step. And now we are in the summary page. Most of the partners do this configuring all these decisions together with the customer on the site, or then, for example, through Skype or different kind of services. So you can go these steps through with the customer. And here in the summary page, you can go through like, yes, actually we have 5 individual mailboxes on Exchange backup. And then we have 7 SharePoint licenses discovered, and 2 OneDrive for Business account enabled on the backup service. So this is the place you can actually check that everything is in order and the customer knows who is going to be backed up and who not. And you are associated with also, and we have this in place in Norway, so you wouldn't see this one actually. And then you would just agree the partner agreement and place an order. So this is how easy it actually is to place the order. And to be clear, any of these steps what we have made earlier, you haven't actually purchased anything. So only that when you place the order, then you would actually make the order. But this is just planning tool and kind of like negotiating with the customer what they want to back up and what not. And if I now go back to the cloud backup, I'm going to show you how the restoring actually functions. So every time you want to go to see your existing Office 365 backup subscription, you go to the cloud backup and you scroll down to the subscription. Here are all of your cloud backup customers. So I would, for example, now go to also Switzerland to see how is their backup going. And here I can see like, okay, in their backup, they have this much of SharePoint and OneDrive data and this much of Exchange. In Exchange, they have actually 5 licenses on Mailbox, 2 shared Mailbox, and 1 public folder. And the backup was last done at 1 p.m. And here you can actually see that this is a situation for SharePoint and OneDrive, and the last backup was 2 p.m. So every time a customer calls you this is like the first place you can actually look how many licenses they have this in a backup and when was the last backup done. But we also have the billing and insights portal, which gives you more detailed information about the customer's backup, and I will definitely give you a link to there as well. And if the customer wants to also have a right to view, for example, this page, you can give the right from the admin section in the page. But then if we go for alerts, we're going to see what has actually been happening within the backup. So if there's many people you handling the same customer within your company, you can see like, okay, what your colleague has been doing, and you would see that, okay, they have actually restored last week something on in also Switzerland. And then if we go for exchange, we are seeing that, okay, now Buck needs to leave the company, and Elsa has actually come back to the organization after maternity leave. And then if we see that actually Esther, we need to actually restore the full mailbox because there has some kind of problem being with Esther's mailbox, so we actually can restore the full mailbox. But then we can also restore like even a one file or calendar or task or notes. And let's go, for example, for Earl's email box. And Earl is now in Oslo, and Earl has never been there, and he's looking for a dinner place, and there was actually recommendation for the team from Norway and they say they sent him an invite, but he accidentally deleted the invite for the dinner. And now Earl is calling to his support and asking if someone can actually restore the dinner reservation because he has no idea where he should go and what time. And then we look for dinner from Earl's inbox, and there we have it. And then we just click it and restore, and now it goes to the same place it was actually lost. And I just want to highlight here that we never go into inside the email. We always stick on the subject line. So if the email is lost, and so the person needs to know what was actually in the subject line, as we don't see any detailed data what is actually inside the email. So this was the restoring process, and this is how easy to actually restore the data from the email. And it goes same with the public folders or shared mailboxes. And then if we go to the SharePoint, we can do the same. We can either restore the full site collection, or we can go inside the site collection, and we go to community. And then if we go to images, we can go forms and this level of like what we can actually see what is there. And then we actually look for, like, let's say image, and then we can look an image there, and then we can restore it at the same way as the dinner reservation. So it's really, really simple how actually it's restored, but the person just needs to know what has been there, what is the name of the file or the email, and what is the, at least one word needs to be correct that the file is found. And then if we go for OneDrive for Business, most of probably also you are working a lot with your team members in OneDrive and in the cloud. You're editing documents together, and not so many of us anymore like store the data actually on the desktop. We put everything on OneDrive as we have to collaborate a lot of together, and we don't send so many attachments anymore. So what happens with our backup, because these different files are changing and evolving all the time, our backup makes nice 6 snapshots a day. And every time there's a change in a document, the tool makes a new version of it. So here we can, for example, see that we have, I think we have 7 different versions of the chocolate chip cookie. So every time the tool discovers that it has even like a 1-word change, it makes a new copy. So the tool never overwrites any of the data that has been in the document. So if there's a change, the tool makes it a new copy, which is really important as people change different documents, and if some person is like, hey, actually I think it was the better version was in the version we made like at Wednesday, can we have that back? And if it's lost, you can restore it from here. So this is really important in organizations where people are doing a lot of things together and working on the same document. For example, the leadership team is working on a strategy, for example. So this is a really good feature that you can actually restore a certain document as they know that they may actually be like the September version, so we want to get it back. So this is really, really good feature of the cloud backup. And here, unfortunately, I don't have anything in my groups and teams, but I'm sure you'll see, and I will see something happening here very soon. And then if we go to the settings page, we can actually change some of the details, what actually was made in the first place, like what is the retention policy and if the auto enable wants to be on or off. So this is the page, all of these changes can be made. But I have, this was it. I hope you like it. I hope you saw it's very easy to use and really, really intuitive user experience. We want to make everything as simple as possible, so that's why our tool is very simple to use. And one thing I really want to say here, that you can always come back to me or to our support. Our support is free, and we have a team in Seattle and actually in Amsterdam, and they are available 24/5 or sometimes even more, but you can either call them or send them an email. Do you have some questions?
Yes, we actually have a question. There's someone who's wondering about when you're restoring the email.
Yeah.
When you restore the email, would it restore only that email, or would it take time back to the moment the email was lost?
You can, like, if I go back to the restoring here and we go to the exchange. So if we go to URLs and you can actually like last 24 hours, last 7 days, last 30 days, last 3 months, or last 6 days or 12 months. But if there is a hacker attack, we had this kind of example, like bad example in Australia. There was a hacker attack within our customer, and 20,000 email boxes was lost and under attack. But we would actually, our team in Seattle traveled back 5 minutes before the hacker attack happened. So you can actually go point in time restore as well within our team. So it's possible to just like that, if you know that there's a hacker attack 12:15, so you can actually restore the data 12:10. So it's possible also, and just before it happens.
Great. And then we have another question. How does SkyKick make you GDPR ready?
I will send you all the documentations because we are already GDPR ready. So that's why it's really important for us that we want to take that burden of our partners, so that you don't have to think about how your companies are like GDPR ready. So we had I think it was like a month ago, we already announced that we have gone all those steps and different kind of evaluations, and our systems are GDPR ready, and I will definitely share you all the data privacy and the documentation about the GDPR.
So SkyKick is ready.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the question said you, but I think what he meant was how can SkyKick help make a company GDPR ready?
For example, when I discuss a lot with Microsoft, they are really concerned, as there's so many different kind of on-premise and different kind of backup services in place, and they're their GDPR story ends if the data is not backed up into Azure, because after that they're not in like in charge of the data. So that's why Microsoft really recommends the data be backed up in Azure, because if something happens, they can pick it up or be aware that where the data is. Because if the data is copied, for example, for one place before it's placed in the other place, the cycle is cut, and that's why they recommend use Azure as a backup service. And also, as we are GDPR ready ourselves already, it's like a full service for our partners.
And will you support backing up Microsoft Teams?
Yes, it's groups and teams here. So it's we are now in a beta version. Actually, the tool is ready, but we want to have like first access to our like biggest backing up partners. So we are backing up a lot. So now we launched it in March, and if there's someone who wants to be in the program already, just send an email to me, so I will add you to the backup program. And if there's something you want to have kind of give me a feedback, I would be very happy to have your feedback, because we really want to hear what you guys think of our tool. And but it's ready already. We just haven't rolled out it to everybody, as we want our partners to have the first kind of glimpse and also hear the feedback, what they are thinking about it. The only thing we don't back up in Office groups and Teams is the third-party applications, basically.
Okay. And what would happen if a customer would cancel their agreement, and if they go over to use their own data storage? Would they be able to access their data back in time without a SkyKick license?
Yes, for example, this is when someone actually, let's say, leaves the company. You would put, let's say, Buck would leave the company, and here, like in 2 years after, you would realize that Buck would have a file. You could still have an access into his files. If you haven't deleted Buck's like account, they are still accessible.
Okay. I can't see any more questions.
Okay.
If anyone else has any questions, you can always contact Jeanette, or you can contact me. Like I said, my name is Yande Khan. Thank you so much, Jeanette.
Thank you. Thank you. And please send me an email, janetdial@skykick.com. I can also have one-on-one demo if you want, or we can try the IUR program together. I will send a follow-up email to the Also Norway team, where you can have all the links to the IUR and all the GDPR information, for example. So please contact me if you have more questions.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and have a lovely new week. Thank you. Bye.